Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WildMax1 here, bringing you another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're doing another champion guide, this time on one of the kings of PvE, although I think lore-wise he's technically a prince, but I'm talking of course about the defense-based damage dealer from the Dwarf faction, Gnut. One of the best in the game for PvE, right up there with Marius in contention for that #1 spot. Today we'll be going over his skills, how to build him, and then showcasing him in a bunch of different places in the game. With that, let's get into it. So Gnut was released in summer of 2023. While Armands or Fabian might fight for that top spot as best PvP fusion, Gnut is definitely in contention for best PvE, if not best overall, in terms of sheer impact to players' accounts. He has an incredible kit with enemy max HP hits, with relevant debuffs, multi-hitters, and crowd control. There are speed teams in the game consisting entirely of Gnuts that can solo some of the most difficult bosses in seconds. So with that, let's take a look at his kit and see what makes him so special. Starting with his A1, Dwarven Might. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has an 80%, booking up to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. If the target's turn meter is not decreased, each hit has an 80% chance of freezing. That's booking up to 100% chance again. So incredible crowd control potential on his A1. You'll immediately start thinking, hey, wouldn't it be nice if this guy was paired up with somebody that put counterattack on him? Well, spoiler alert, he has counterattack on his A2 that he puts on himself. So you're really talking about a crowd control master right here. And in terms of Fire Knight, he is one of, if not the best champion for Fire Knight hard, specifically because of that turn meter and then the freeze if he can't manipulate the turn meter, which you cannot do in Fire Knight 10 hard. On his A2, Fury of the King. Attacks all enemies, has a 75, booking up to 100% chance of placing the big decrease attack and the big weaken on all enemies for 2 turns. Also places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns. This is on a 4-turn, booking down to a 3-turn cooldown. So really nice AoE ability, 2 really relevant debuffs, especially in wave-based content. You want to make sure enemies are not hitting as hard. You're pairing up weaken, so you can just have somebody that throws up a decreased defense, and then you have both the relevant damage buffs on them, and then of course that counterattack skill pairing up so nicely with that A1, able to freeze opponents, chop down their turn meter. Really cohesive, great kit so far. Next, looking at the A3, Blessed Bash. This is his best ability. This is the one he's really known for. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit decreases the target's defense by 3%, stacking up to 30%. Think of this kind of like Harima's. Each hit also heals this champion by 30% of the damage dealt. So now he also has his own sustain built in on his hardest hitting ability. Now, the important thing about this, damage is based on both defense and enemy max HP. This is on a 5-turn, booking down to a 4-turn cooldown. So this is his #1 ability. This is really what he's brought into compositions for. This is the boss killer. Blessed Bash does enemy max HP hits, 3 of them in a row. Amazing. And he also has that passive that decreases the target's defense up to 30%. So he really is an amazing boss killer. Any target that he gets to stack this up on, this is dealing so much damage. This is really what you bring Gnut for. Finally, looking at his passive, no holding back. When counterattacking, deals 100% of damage instead of 75. So if you didn't know, in Raid Shadow Legends, whenever champions counterattack, they're only dealing 75% of their possible damage. In this case, Gnut's A1 is going to be dealing all 100. Great. Such a nice cohesive kit. Again, he brings his own counterattack, passive supports counterattack, and then he has an amazing A1 for counterattacking with that decreased turn meter and freeze. Really good crowd control. For his aura, we have increased ally accuracy in dungeons by 80. He's going to be a dungeon master for you. So really solid, amazing cohesive kit. Such a good champ. So now looking at his total stats, we have 19.6k HP, very solid. Attack, irrelevant. He's a defense-based damage dealer. 1520 defense, very good. Under 100 speed, just under 100 speed, not great. You'd like to have him a little bit faster, but it's fine, not that big of a deal. And then the rest is not really that important. So when building your Gnut, you're going to make sure he's got 100% crit rate. You're going to be stacking defense on him and then crit damage as well. Now, he is going to be a little bit stat hungry because he does require accuracy to land his debuffs, as well as his turn meter decrease and his freeze. So you're going to make sure that he has enough speed and accuracy for whatever content you're going to be bringing him in, and the rest you're just going to be pouring into defense, which just makes him tankier, and crit damage, because you want to make sure you're hitting that 10% boss limit per hit on his enemy max HP. So in this case, most bosses, dungeon bosses in the game, have a limit of 10% of their HP per hit. Luckily, this is a triple hitter, so you can still remove 30% of the boss's HP with this, assuming you have it capped in damage on whatever content you're running. Now, there are other encounters in the game where that's not even a thing, and that cap can kind of be manipulated, like the new Chimera clan boss. And we'll get into that in a moment. For now, let's get into how I have my Gnut built. So when you're going to be looking to build your Gnut, the number one thing you should be focusing on as a PvE king, as a boss killer, as an enemy max HP hitter, what you really need to make sure he's doing is every hit of his A3 needs to be getting as close to that 10% cap as possible on bosses. In order to do that, the best way to increase damage on him is to put him in something that ignores enemy defense. So having him in a lethal or an instinct or a savage set is going to be so beneficial, so much easier to hit that cap with him. If you don't have any of those sets, if you don't have anything that can increase, even a merciless set, although that would be, kind of more premium, I think, and should maybe be better used on one of your attack-based damage dealers, but still, getting 35% ignore defense, if you have it to spare, is amazing on Gnut as well, and it could probably make it much easier to hit that 10% cap. But if you don't have anything that ignores defense, putting him in something like a reflex or a relentless can be very beneficial, or an impulse, anything that makes his A3 come back off cooldown faster so he can use it more often. Now with relentless, you could potentially be putting yourself into some troublesome situations on things like Sand Devil, because he could be taking extra turns and doing extra hits when you don't want him to, waking up the Sand Devil, potentially wiping you. So that is a consideration. It's also going to be eating into more Hydra turns if you're using him there. So a reflex, I think, is safer to use if that's the route that you want to go. But if you don't have any of those available, then you can obviously just put him in perception. The accuracy is great on him. Speed is great on him. It's going to help you hit that requisite accuracy and speed requirements for your content that you're running. And he's still going to deal amazing damage. It's still enemy max HP damage on bosses with high HP totals. He's still going to be hitting like an absolute truck for you, no matter where you bring him. So obviously, you're going to be going for that 100% crit rate. You're going to be going for high defense, and you're going to be going for high crit damage. That's a lot of stats to invest. Additionally, you have to make sure that you're checking your accuracy requirements. Now, depending on what content you're looking to run, I've just jotted down a few of the key accuracy requirements. These are the high-end ones that he's going to need in ascending or descending order in terms of how much he's going to need. So 345 is going to be what he needs in order to successfully land debuffs on Fire Knight 10 hard. This is going to be a big one for a lot of people because, again, he is one of the best Fire Knight 10 hard champs in the game. That guaranteed freeze that he puts on his A1 is so useful for keeping the Fire Knight controlled. For Hydra on Nightmare, the head with the highest accuracy requirement is going to require Gnut to have 360. For Chimera, if you want, I think the Viper is the one that requires the most accuracy, and on Ultra Nightmare, that's 475 for him. And finally, Sand Devil 25, if you want him to be able to land his A2 debuffs on that, you're going to need a whopping 495. So consider where you're going to be using him. Obviously, these are some of the highest in the game. These are areas where he does excel, but these are some of the highest requirements in the game. So if you don't want to be using him in Sand Devil 25 for his debuffs, or if you're not going to be worried about him debuffing the Viper trial specifically, then these can go down. Or if you're not in these difficulties yet, then these are all going to go down significantly. But these are just some numbers to consider when you're going to be building your Gnut. So the relic that I'm using on Gnut is just a pretty easy one to acquire, the Malefic Talon. I like it for the crit damage that it has, the extra chance to do a little more damage, and the HP. I don't even have a gem socketed in there. This is just pretty much a throwaway relic just to increase his crit damage a little bit. Anything that you have lying around that can increase his tankiness or his damage is going to be great on him. That's the nice thing about Gnut. He does his job, provided you have the correct stats on him, and you don't really need to be that concerned with it. You don't need any fancy PvP relics, no wand of submission, nothing like that. If you do want to go, you can, and it doesn't have to be a damage-based one either. You can end up putting him in Golden Elixir, for example, if you're using him with an Aniri strat in Sand Devil 25 and you're concerned with his survivability, you can have this here for that extra heal whenever he gets low. If you want, you can, if you're putting a lot of debuffs in Hydra, for example, or something like that, you can even have Erethi Coronet on there. That is going to be helping him hit the caps. If you're concerned with his accuracy, nice cheap Molten Death Bell would be good on him. Very easy way to hit accuracy caps if you want to. And if you really want to make sure you're hitting that max cap 100% pretty much every time, then one of the best relics you can put on him for damage. He has a lower HP total, and he's going to be a boss killer, so this is always going to be triggered on him. I think Cat's Gaze is pretty much one of the best relics you can throw on your Gnut. Again, where ignores 10% of the target's defense. Where ignores 10% of the target's defense when attacking enemies with higher max HP. Gnut is going to be a boss slayer. This is always going to be triggered. Great way to hit more ignored defense on your Gnut. But again, you don't have to go with any premium options on him. Just throw whatever else you have laying around on your Gnut, and he's still going to be performing fantastically for you. For blessings on Gnut, you have quite a few options to play with. So I currently have mine in Soul Reap just because I'm using that execute threshold on certain dungeon bosses for speed runs. If you do have him 6-star ascended, and this is something I'm still going to playtest in Ultra Nightmare Chimera, but Crushing Rend could be really good to try to help you get to that max HP hit. Although on Chimera, it's coding a little differently right now from what I understand, so modifiers are a little strange. I'm nowhere close to the cap yet, so this may in fact be very beneficial to me if I decide to switch to it for Ultra Nightmare Chimera specifically. But again, if you don't have 6-star Crushing Rend, then I recommend Brimstone as his go-to damage blessing. Enemy max HP hitter with enemy max HP hit blessing. It just makes sense. He's always going to have high accuracy for the content you're going to be running, so he's going to be landing the Smite debuff. If you're going to be using him in one of the 2-man Aniri Gnut combos for Sand Devil 25, if you have him with enough accuracy, he's going to be landing Smite. That's going to significantly increase the speed of those runs. If you have him in Fire Knight and you want to make sure you're getting that Fire Knight shield down, you can always put him in Phantom Touch. All great options. You make your choice based on what you need. And finally, to round out his build, let's take a look at Masteries. Let me move myself here. Okay, so Gnut, obviously, triple hitter on his A1, triple hitter on his A3, so Giant Slayer is going to be really good on him. He's going to be triggering this a lot. He's a max HP hitter, max HP on his Tier 6 Mastery. It just makes sense. I have him in Life Drinker, although this is not strictly needed just because he does have that sustain on his A3. And then Methodical, again, he does 100% damage with his counterattacks. This just increases his A1 damage, so that's always nice. For his support tree, went down and picked up all the accuracy masteries. I went up and picked up Master Hexer for the debuffs he's applying, make sure they last as long as possible. And finally, Cycle of Magic, just to get, hopefully, that A3 off cooldown a little bit faster. If you are struggling with accuracy for whatever content you're going to be running, if you really want to make sure you're landing, if you're just barely getting to that 345 for Fire Knight 10 hard, you can obviously come down and pick up Eagle Eye. The Giant Slayer, while it is nice, is not going to be a make or break for Gnut, but making sure you land that freeze on Fire Knight 10 hard could be a make or break. So feel free to nab up the Eagle Eye one if you need. So the first place that I want to showcase Gnut is one of his best uses in dungeons, and that is Fire Knight 10 hard. Very difficult stage, and Gnut is one of the best, if not the best, champion at this particular boss. His freeze on his A1, along with that triple hitter, makes him really, really useful for this. So having champions like Gnut, Neldor, and then ally attackers and reset champions is probably the best, most consistent way to be able to tackle this. Just because the waves are going to take a while right now, I'm going to skip ahead until we actually get to the Fire Knight for the showcase. All right, so we finally got to the boss after a minute and 54. Not the fastest, but again, I value consistency more than I value speed in this case. I don't really farm this dungeon, so we're just going to go ahead and see what we can do here. Let's get some auto attacks going. Let's get some ally attacks going. Let's get both of them. All right, Neldor just needs to do a little bit. Okay, good. There we go. 1, 2, 3. There it is. That's what we were looking for. And now hopefully, let's see. Yeah, reset. And ally attack again. And then once this goes in, his turn meters should be down enough where we can just run this on auto. We could have just done this on auto anyway, but I just wanted to show for the sake of slowing it down a little bit. Every time that Gnut does his triple hitter, the Fire Knight's turn meter just drops significantly. Neldor, his A1 has, I believe, a 40% with Sniper Mastery up to 45% chance on a triple hitter to apply a freeze, but Gnut's obviously is way more consistent than that. That's why he is one of the best, if not the best, champ for this specific encounter. So there you have it. This is just going to take a while. I'm not exactly... again, I disable Gnut's Blessed Bash for this just because I don't care about speed as much as I do consistency and no failing this. But in this case, again, you see this is on a pretty consistent rotation now. We should be good to go. It's just about dealing the requisite damage, and then we'll be good to go on this. So if you have your Gnut, if you tune it right on this team, again, he's one of the best for Fire Knight that you could possibly have. Enjoy him in this. If you're farming it regularly for that Savage gear or whatever, he's going to be one of your MVPs. Next place that I want to showcase Gnut is going to be in Faction Wars. As of the filming of this video, Faction Wars Hard just dropped a few days ago, and anybody that's got Gnut is definitely going to be using him in their Faction Wars lineup. Again, that interaction between the counterattack that he gets from the A2 and his turn meter decrease and freezes on his A1 make him incredibly good at crowd control when it comes to waves. So in this case, I'm just going to be putting in Fralny and Gnut right now because if I put in my full lineup, they would chew through these earlier stages pretty quickly. But if you were ever in a scenario where things were going off the rails and you had some of your dwarves die, maybe your reviver goes down and you're coming down towards the end, I just wanted to show what Gnut can do with those freezes just to kind of give you an actual shot at clearing. All right, so he's got his counterattack on. There he goes, counterattacking and freezing. It's exactly what he does. So still doing really good damage with that A3, despite the fact that it's, more known for its max HP hits. And there he goes, just chopping down that turn meter of the enemies. So nice to have on him. He's just such a reliable champion, not just for being a great boss killer, but also in these kind of wave-based scenarios. All right, so we're not gonna finish this one out here because I doubt that we'd be able to finish this with just these two, as the last wave is pretty difficult. But again, you see here, we've got one enemy already frozen. He's got his counterattack up again, and he's ready to start dishing out more freezes and more turn meter manipulation. Just a really excellent champ for Faction Wars or Faction Wars Hard. So the next place that I want to showcase Gnut is going to be in Spider 20. And you can already see right here, my lowest turn count is 2 with 8-second run. So we're just going to go in here. I actually could absolutely two-man this. This could just be a Lydia and Gnut thing, or just Gnut completely on his own if I wanted to, but this is how my fastest runs are. So Lydia goes in debuffs, Gnut triple hits, and it's over. So again, this is the reason that you want to make sure Gnut hits hard enough so that he's hitting caps on bosses. Now this Spider 20 doesn't necessarily have that 10% cap per hit, but so that's why Gnut, you saw 2.6 million hits on that. But again, Gnut should be built in damage so that you can hit those caps no matter what boss, no matter what stage you're on, and so he can also hit hard in waves. All right, the final showcase today is going to be in Sand Devil 25. Now, Gnut is one of the best damage dealers for this as well. There's a lot of champs that can do this. They can do this two-person strat with a Neri. You can have a ninja with high accuracy. You can have Marius if you have him. But Gnut is one of the best because not only does he have the triple hitter max HP, but he also has a favorable affinity matchup against Sand Devil at stage 25. So we're just going to go take a look at how this works. But essentially, Aniri's passive, once the Feasting Swarm goes out, knocks both of them out. Aniri's passive triggers on her, rezzing her because she's the first in the lineup. Then she uses her res on Gnut. Gnut comes in, does big HP hit on the boss, and then the run continues cyclically till it's done. Now, Gnut's A2 is on in this case. Normally, if you're going to be trying to make this as quick as possible, you can turn that off. Neri's heals should be enough, along with Gnut's Blessed Bash heals to keep him alive through this. We're just going to do one more cycle here, and then, yeah, you get the idea here. Essentially, res, Blessed Bash, boss down to 50%. That's how it works. Gnut is incredibly reliable in this, and yeah, if you don't have a reliable speed team for Sand Devil 25, then this is an incredibly reliable team for how you can get your oils. And there you have it, everybody. Gnut, one of the PvE MVPs in Raid Shadow Legends. If today's guide was helpful for you, please like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any other champs that you'd like to see a guide for. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.